Hello and welcome to Legendary and Green Team, where we talk about books that the other people haven't got to, and where we talk about books because currently they're not talking about anything. My name is Hurinfan, and I am joined with Cesky,
Hello.
who I hope read the whole section this time.
I did. Well,
Eh,
I think I stopped at like 65.9%.
yeah, I think that's about right. And Ashman,
Hi, everybody.
who finished reading 3 weeks ago, so pray for him.
Yep.
If
I
it's
mean,
not,
I think it is fair to say that nobody in the world has covered Infinite Jest before, right?
yeah, of course, it's not a very popular book.
No.
It's not even that old. It came out last year, right?
Basically contemporary.
I think it was
Always
posthumously
perpetually
published.
coming out.
And we were talking about David Foster Wallace's encyclopedic novel, The Infamous Infinite Jest. And much like the Infinite Jest of the book, it's impossible to put down, isn't it?
Yeah, because I had to do a recording.
Yeah, it's impossible to do something with it. Yes.
All right, so shall we get started?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. I want to add at the start that after I finished the section, but before this recording, obviously, I watched The End of the Tour, a movie about David Foster Wallace, he's played by Jason Segel, who does a great job. That's a pretty good movie. I thought it made me more sympathetic to the author, even if like the movie turns out to like not actually be accurate at all. I don't really know anything about that. I thought it was good for making me think about the book in a bit of a different way.
I also watched it on your recommendation, and I felt the same way. Jason Segel was fantastic, actually, like really good. Like I think he should have been considered for awards that year. Jesse Eisenberg, he's just Jesse Eisenberg. But yeah, like DFW was played exactly how I always imagined him. Maybe they could have shined a little bit more light on his domestic violence problems, but what they did talk about is basically how everyone viewed him in his life as a very kind, sympathetic man, unless of course it came to the women in his life, which also came up in the movie as very insecure and jealous. But
Yes, and really struggling with authenticity.
yep.
And not wanting to be perceived as a phony.
So basically, this book, but in movie form, right?
Yeah. So if you want to save yourself like 40 hours, you can just watch the movie.
Yeah. I mean, he's joking, but it really does cover a lot of the same subjects. It was kind of like a my dinner with Andre, but with a real author. I don't know. It's good. I'd say check it out. A24. Do you know who the director is?
No.
I don't know either. Probably looked that up before I started. What is different about this section compared to the last two, do you think?
So much more plot.
Is there, or is it you just
Yeah.
noticing more plot?
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say.
Things are coming to a head.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's coming to a head.
Yeah, David Foster Wallace, I think, picked up on a technique, I think invented by Brandon Sanderson, called the climax. Or something here.
What? I just curious. What would you call the climax?
I it's not happened here. It's just building towards it. I think.
Okay.
Pretty obvious signs that everyone's gonna come, like the plot lines are converging. Characters that
Yes.
you didn't think would started talking. Yeah, machinations.
Still random side tangents into Nowheresville and back.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say
Back
anything
again.
because I'm sure you've noticed that I've been talking about anti-confluentialism in the last couple episodes. Keep that in mind. But if there is a section in this section that is a climax, would be, I suppose, when Don Gately gets in a fight with the Quebecois separatists in Boston, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I would have thought with like the emotional climax of the book so far has been Marath's conversation with Kate Gompert,
Okay.
which successfully managed to turn me against Marath, which is that was a surprise.
So what do you, the ending of that conversation ends up a bit ambiguous. So what do you think's going on there?
Was it ambiguous?
I think so.
I don't know. He said, I'll show you this infinite jest if you want. And she's like, I don't believe you. And he's like, but if you did believe me, you'd do this bizarre suicide. And she's like, yeah.
That's it.
So maybe he takes her, maybe he doesn't. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. It's ambiguous.
She reminds him of his wife, and she's like initially very flattered, and then it's like, what
I
kind
love
of
that conversation.
what are you talking? Like,
He's describing this twisted sense of love that he has based on like what it sounds like a brain dead lady with no skull.
yeah,
And
like does
she
he ever
saved
have
his
to
life,
break?
and he puts all of his work and all of his love and all of his emotion into this lady. It's much like the addicts in AA, right? That
Yeah,
they have to put their faith in this higher power, and he does this to his life. But in this case, only it's kind of described as a like a grotesque, like what is actually going on? Is this healthy? Is this safe?
Like
Um,
have they actually had a conversation
mhm.
when they got married? Was she actually able to consent to the marriage?
I don't know. But I don't like to say this about people, but her existence just kind of seems a little disgusting.
Yep.
And Kate Goppert says that, and she's like, "Ew, like how would you? Why would you want to describe me like this?"
You remind me, like I remind you of your wife. What?
Like she's just calling him out. Like this is warped and gross and disgusting.
Yep.
You got to stop this, man.
I thought it was very relatable how just like at the beginning of the conversation, she's just like she's drinking. She's like, why haven't I been prescribed alcohol before? I'm feeling great right now. Like,
Yeah,
um,
because she was never an
yep.
alcohol. She was never into alcohol, so I guess
She
it's
was
okay
never
for her to be
yeah.
drinking.
I mean, yeah, like I personally, I find when I drink, then my depressive symptoms get much alleviated, which is a dangerous thing.
At least temporarily, right?
Yes. Yes. And then yeah, like the next day it's like, well, back to normal. But uh,
Um, Did you finally read the section about the cult of the train? Any thoughts about the cult of the train? So this I've brought up in the last two episodes because I mentioned it, but a lot of people don't read it until now because the official end note is somewhere in the 300s. But in earlier end notes, those end notes make uh, a direct pointer to this end note. And many first time readers just skip it.
okay.
The first two times, and then when they finally get to the 300s, they read it in its entirety. I think that the original, the first time readers, when they see that their end note is pointing to a several page long end note, they just say, "Screw it, I'll read it later." I assume that's the case for you too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any thoughts about the cult of the train? Because I love that section.
not really. Sorry.
Oh,
It really makes sense that there are so many hyper competent wheelchair assassins now. A lot of people who are in wheelchairs. It's very difficult to remain very fit. Let's say so. Um, yeah, I, I would be suspicious if such an organization could be formed in modern day Quebec. But if there's this weird cult going on, then it does make sense. Yeah, I can't say I know like if this is like coming from anything though.
mm. Yeah, like why did it start?
Yeah, I I wouldn't say that Quebecois people I know are very inclined to jump in front of trains.
Did you notice that the one of the originals was John Wayne's father?
Oh no,
Yeah.
no wonder he's so dour.
Yeah, dude's got stuff going on, including sleeping with Avril,
Yes,
dressed up
yes.
in a football uniform while she's dressed up in a cheerleader's outfit.
I mean, we don't know that they're sleeping together. We just know that they were enacting some kind of bizarre pantomime.
Sure.
Sure, no, that's people do that kind of stuff for lots of reasons.
Yeah. And anyways, this is coming from Pemulus, who is he really reliable? I'm not sure.
I
Uh,
okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah,
true.
maybe there's some kind of reverse Electro complex going on, which is weird.
Okay. 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 I'll say nothing else. It's a conversation I'd like to have at the end of the book, but let's take it at face value and say that Avril has this strange fantasy. Uh, you could understand maybe why in Joel's sections, like especially when she's cleaning and she's having the flashback to all of her memories with the Nkundenza family,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that creepy Thanksgiving dinner where everyone's just being so polite, except Avril is giving her a stare that's indicating that she hates the woman with every fiber of her being, and yet always saying the nicest things.
Yeah. That was one of the few things I really remember in this book. That was a good scene.
Whatever. I hate Oren. I can't stand the guy. And I hate how mean he is to Mario. But at the same time, uh, it's kind of understandable for an older brother to resent their younger brother who came in and took all of their mother's attention, especially when a guy who has so many mommy issues like Oren does.
Well, and it's not even just that he was a younger brother, but it was a younger brother that like super monopolized his parents, time
Well,
and
not that
everything, right? Because
you'd think so, but like she wouldn't even change his diapers. Like Hal changes diapers, because
yes.
which is wild to me. She's a woman who, oh man, that conversation where Avril had with Mario, and Mario is obviously worried about Hal, at least from the reader's perspective. And he's asking her, so how do people show that they're sad? And what if they're just like more normal than normal? And she's giving all these textbook, very clinical definitions or precise definitions for things. And Mario, who's probably the most empathetic person ever, is catching up on these things that Avril doesn't even notice about her own son, and she's just reading the whole situation wrong. I don't know, I really like that scene.
I like that scene too. I'm probably more sympathetic to Avril in that context than you are, though. Not sure.
I don't like Avril very much.
You don't like Avril. I like Avril. Yeah.
I'll talk about that more a little bit later, but yeah, mm. I do
I mean,
think that she receives a lot more unfair flack, considering she was just as, I don't know, abusive is the wrong word. Wasn't it in this book earlier where they're talking about how do you define someone's parents as abusive? Like, what if they come in and do all the work for you, so you never learn how to do anything? Or what if they're so overbearing that you feel suffocated? In that case, Avril definitely stunted her son's growth, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, she seems very caring
mhm.
and attentive, even though that causes its own issues in its own way. Um, I forgot where I was going with this though.
She's someone that like needs rules to function, and when it comes to parenting, I feel like strict rules maybe aren't necessarily very useful, but she doesn't know how to operate without them. Like she's a prescriptivist, and like I think clearly like autistic, right?
Oh yeah, I
I
never considered that.
yeah. So
Also, seemingly a sex addict, and I
Excuse me.
forgot what.
do we know what her childhood was like?
Oh, let's see. Her father was,
Like a potato farmer or something?
yeah, but a very, very successful one.
Until he wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I remember.
Mhm.
She, but because we know very little about her, she might actually be associated with the AFR.
Yeah. I mean,
In fact, I have a theory, and I guess it's kind of spoiling things because it doesn't actually ever get resolved. But I think she might be the Swiss hand model.
that sleeps with Oren?
Yeah,
I would imagine that Oren would recognize her, no?
I don't know. Swiss hand model is obviously associated with the AFR. They speak French. She likes dressing up. They
Oren
say
is
that,
really bad at determining people who
yeah,
are kissing.
Oren doesn't even recognize that. What's his name? Steepley. Steepley's a man. Yeah,
Um,
so and
I
Oren's all
guess that's
sorts of messed
possible,
up.
but that just makes it even weirder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
sure.
yeah.
um,
Again, like this isn't canon. Like it's
yeah.
never really resolved. But
I as far as Avril's parenting style goes, like I can see where she's coming from with all the things she's doing, right? Like she doesn't want to be overbearing to her children, right? And so she's
hmm
unintentionally overbearing because she's trying so hard not to be.
mm.
And she
Mhm.
just wants her children to feel safe about coming to her and not feel like they have too many expectations placed on them, and like it's all okay, I love you no matter what. I want the best for you, but I don't want to determine, like I don't want to tell you how your life is supposed to go. But like she has such strong inclinations towards order that like it kind of seeps through anyways. And I don't know, maybe she's just like, I think probably what she needed was a husband that actually cared about parenting as well.
Oh yeah, I remember now what I was saying earlier. She
Yeah.
kind of gets unfair flack, I guess, because she's alive, based on the status of her children. I think from the narrative's perspective, but also from the POV of the children themselves, especially Oren, because he hates his mother and blames everything on her. Um,
Mhm.
but JOI was not a good father. He was
No.
just out of it all
No.
the time, working.
Yeah.
I guess maybe to Mario he was, but even then it was just in the context of making
Well,
cartridges.
he wouldn't talk to them unless their mom was there as well, right? And like that's
Mhm.
like I was like that's super unhealthy. Like that's just like how do you even hope to like do anything with them or like be a
And,
parent at all if you can't talk to them? And he's like,
yeah,
well, it's just because they grew up too fast. I'm like, well, that's no excuse. Like,
Right? Maybe perhaps they grew up too fast because their dad was deadbeat, you know?
yeah. And he's like, well, Mario, we got used to the silence, and then we just started talking. It's like this is all sorts of messed up in every way possible. Like that's not even a real
absolutely.
relationship, Mario, right? Like, yeah, no,
Isn't
it
like the
was
relationship with Mario like strictly business like too? Like
it
Mario's
was
like
by
his
coincidence, Ash. It's by coincidence that Mario happens to like all the things his dad likes. He
Kind of,
just
yeah, it
he
is.
just was it was just yeah, it was by
Or just like, I think
happenstance.
lenses are neat, and his dad's like,
Yeah,
I like lenses,
we can
there's
bond now.
no
and
yeah.
it's. I think it was described in the text as a bond that isn't bogged down with the father son dynamic, which is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they're colleagues, like their work colleagues.
Yeah, so
Just
Joy needs just as much blame as Avril, in my opinion. Maybe more because he
I
was an
think more.
alcoholic and he did leave them with his head in a microwave.
And like
it's
I don't know, like he was dealing with his own issues.
Yeah, oh, obviously, yes.
But yeah, like I think he left Avril do almost all the work. And like yeah,
NCT.
there's so many things you can criticize about Avril's parenting style, but like you can't criticize the fact that she's willing to put in work, right?
yeah,
Like
like she
even now that
actually did
Oren,
something.
yeah, like Oren's gone, and but like she still reaches out to him all the time, trying to have some kind of relationship, and he just refuses that, which yeah, it feels very unfair to me.
Hmm. I'm reading much creepier vibes into her relationship with the student John Wayne than you two are. So I'll just leave it at that.
I, maybe there's more context. I don't know.
Let's see. Should we move on from Avril?
I'll look for it in the reread that happens never. So
Let's see. Oh yeah, I like that Orm was trying to get closer to his father through Joel, and it did not
Oh,
work.
that felt super manipulative to me. I did not like that at all.
Oh, that's Orin.
Yeah, it is Oren, absolutely.
yeah,
I think Orin's one of the worst people in this book. Right up there with Lens.
I was gonna
And
say Lens is real up there.
remember that story? It was only one-sided, because we only got the answers to the questions. But Steeply contacted Orin's childhood friend, and he got the story about S. Johnson.
The dog, yeah.
That was a that was awful.
And
I, I
that's probably a deliberate parallel to Lens as well, right? Because they both ended up killing dogs, right?
maybe. Oh, but Lenses is
Lenses is
purposeful.
deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lenses is cruel, like purposely cruel, like you know, make them struggle just enough that
Orange
they
is
could
just
almost get out, but they can't.
selfishly cruel in a
Yeah.
very Oren way.
Like he never owns up to what he did.
Never. And his mother pretends like everything's fine.
It's better that the dog like see that this is like a parenting behavior that like I can see where she's coming from. Like I think it deserves criticism, but like she like this is her trying to be a good mom, right? She doesn't want to make this kid feel terrible for something he presumably feels bad about. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
I think it's just her avoiding trying to be a mother.
You think so?
Yeah, that's not doing anybody favors.
I
Well, I mean,
think
there's a lot of people who think they're doing their kids favors that aren't doing their kids favors.
yeah.
Like there's no limit on that.
Like there's that conversation Hal and Mario have at near the beginning of the book about how like their mom is probably sad but is just burying it.
Mm. You could raise the flagpole higher, or you can see. You raise the flagpole higher, or you could lower the flagpole, and it still looks good in comparison to before, or something like that. That conversation with Mario, right?
Yeah, something like that. I imagine this is probably what happened with her with the dog. I mean, like she was crying in secret. They said when
Hmm.
she thought no one was listening, or if we're taking an uncharitable thing, maybe where she knew that people were listening, but she could pretend that they weren't.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sympathetic, but I wouldn't be surprised if she did that. But I, I don't know. Um,
Tough to say.
I love the parts in Mario's POVs, which are always a joy to read, where he is talking about his relationship with his mother, and they actually have a good relationship just because Mario is so empathetic. But I love every time he talks about Avril letting him do stuff, and Avril worries about him, but he does the thing anyway, even though that she worries about him. And there's several layers of like consideration going on.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best.
Yeah, maybe the problem with Avril is that she also has the wrong children.
Not even willing to change the diaper of her severely disabled son, making her youngest do it.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
weird. I imagine it's like a mess thing for her, right? Given the how negatively she reacted when Hal ate that mold.
my son ate this. My son ate this.
Ah! Running in like perfectly straight lines.
Um, I this is near the beginning of this section, but I love the part where Johnny Gentle had to be extreme measures had to be taken to prevent him from viewing the entertainment.
I don't remember this.
It was like the very beginning. They're talking about the Smee's die, and there's like people talking with Johnny Gentle, and he's just like trying his hardest to see the Infinite Jest,
Hmm.
which seems very realistic for the president at the time.
Yeah. We didn't get much from him at this point though, right?
Sure.
Nah, Johnny Gentle's just kind of a background character,
Yeah.
even though he's
Yeah.
very very memorable. You don't think Johnny Gentle, the once cruder entertainer who has to wear a mask everywhere and refuses to meet with anybody unless they have also gone through a full decontamination, who ran on a campaign of a clean America, who gave part of the Northeast Territory of America to Canada so that he could sell to the people the idea of a clean America, who
And also throw all the garbage in there.
who catapulted all the garbage in America so he could claim that he has a clean America, gave away the dirty part. You don't think this guy's memorable?
Just not in my reading of it. That's all. When you say it like that, then it becomes a lot more memorable. But reading it was not nearly as memorable or as connectable to me.
The guy who campaigned on finding them an enemy to hate.
Who, when people were leaving the Northeast
Modern
Territory,
politics.
refused to allow them to carry things like cattle because that looks too much like
Hate or something.
yeah. The man who had to be physically constrained from actually watching the entertainment because he wanted to.
You want to be in the Skinner box, yeah.
Let's see. Look through my notes. Oh, any thoughts about Green? He was
Remind me.
Lens's
Green and Lens are just
friend.
That was kind of funny when he's like, it's just like Lens talks. I wrote it down. What I say? Lens just talks and talks and talks about inane crap all day long. This, that, and the other. Whatever pops into his head comes out, and Green has one thought a day, and that's all he can devote to anything.
Like Lens is awful. I like the sections near the end of the book where or this section where Lens is talking, and we only get his inner monologue, but like it's the most delusional dude you've ever met in your life, complaining
Yes.
about all these homeless junkies, not knowing that he's also just a pathetic
Oh,
homeless junkie.
Yeah, he's exactly
He's
that.
like
Yeah.
cracked the code now, though. You know, he's figured out how to make people stay out of his way and leave him alone.
At the same time, it's a little sad, even though I have very, very, very little sympathy for Lens. But like he gets this relationship with Green, who's just like a nice guy. Like Green's just really nice. It's like I want to walk home together. Let's do it. And he's like, what? What do I do now? And he gets so anxious about making a friend and this guy that he actually likes, even though their conversations are stupid and kind of
One-sided.
Well, it's
one-sided and a little
100%
bigoted.
one-sided. Yeah.
And Green's just a nice guy being there for him. And he gets so anxious from like maybe meeting a new friend that he goes back into using cocaine And then the whole thing happens with Gately and the separatists and killing more dogs and cats.
So I
Ugh.
did
The
not.
killing the cats was the
Yeah,
worst part for me.
That was
yeah,
bad.
that was bad. I did not catch that it was the separatists. I thought it was just somebody that caught him murdering their dog and wanted to murder him back,
Which is
basically.
fair.
Which I mean is a fair response, I would think.
Yeah.
But and then in that instance, I was like, Gately, you needed to just not immediately try and start a fight with these people. You should have listened, and they'd say he killed our dog, and they'd be like, you know what? Here you go, have him. Let me bring him out to you again, and like, don't hide behind me for your treacherous, horrible crime.
Gately wouldn't do that though. Gately's, I think Gately's our hero in the book.
Well, I think in that instance, Gately made a horrible decision in protecting Lens.
Well, I think only because we have that context and he doesn't, though, right?
Right? I mean, if somebody was being chased by somebody with knives, and they were like, "He just killed our dog," and then
He didn't.
Green, the
He
guy
didn't
who
see their
walks,
knife until it started. Remember?
that's fair, I guess. But then you see like them saying he killed our dog, while Green, the person who's been hanging out with Lens the whole time, brings a dead dog with him. Like I think there would be some questions there.
Yeah, I
Besides
agree.
just, I will get behind me, I'll protect you. That Gately
Um,
performs, right? It's like,
I agree. Um, but again, we have a lot more context than Donnelly
we
Gately does,
we
and all
do.
this happens. Well, this took like a lot of pages and a lot of our time. This happened a very, very short period of time for Mr. Gately. In fact, it's actually a technique that I wanted to talk about because I love that section particularly because as we get closer and closer and closer to the fight with Don Gately and the separatists, we get more and more and more footnotes. And so it's almost as if like I don't know, he's dangling this carrot in front of us. The sentences are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and we're getting a little more excited. At least I am, into reading what's happening with these separatists and with Gately and what's going to go on. And then DFW keeps bringing our attention away from this, telling us to go back to the book and bounce back and forth. It's almost like narrative blue balls, and I think it's fantastic. Works really well, and it I don't know. It keeps me, even though it's frustrating, it keeps me reading because I want to see what's going on. Right? I don't know. Do you have thoughts?
I liked the scene with Gately. I yeah, I mean as much as I wish that Gately had just kind of stood aside and be like, yeah, to have this terrible guy. I get why he protected him because Gately, like, he's very like, I have a job to do. My job is to protect people in his house. You know, like that's just, and also he actually really just likes fighting and feeling like a hero.
But like up until that section too, we get like a long POV from Gately where it's just inane BS. Like all the stuff that he has to
He has to
do.
wake up all the residents, and they need to move their cars on the to the other side of the street.
And like if I see this movie, I could just imagine it as like a montage of like just like having to do the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
He has to ring up, mail on the floor, get down, check the urine, check somebody else's urine, allow somebody else in the house. It goes on and on and on and on like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally get to the fight and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Ah, I love that part.
He gets a vacation from that terrible job.
And like the how the city is so unfair to the residents and having to change the car spots every night.
The other side of the street.
And
Yeah.
how like he doesn't want to do a lot of things that he has to do, and like it's always his choice whether to like kick somebody out of the house, and like he's like I like Green, and Green just gives it over a mud, and then he finds Lens who is clearly high and does an on spot urine check, whatever.
He would have done an on-spot urine check. He didn't get to do it. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't get to do that. Yeah,
but Lens does get kicked out later anyway. 'Cause he's on the
yeah.
streets attacking Asian women.
That was
Yeah.
a something I did make a note. There's a sentence that was like 2 phone screen pages for me, and it's the exact sentence you're talking about. So every PM at like 23:59, Gately has to lock up the lockers and this cabinet and that, and I appreciate that David Foster Wallace wrote like technically, and like he wrote. I just sometimes I felt like he was like literally writing the way somebody would speak, where they're like, okay, so every night at like where they're
Mhm.
like estimating it's 23:59, and I'm like, just cut out all those words for me, please. I didn't enjoy reading them. They just, and the sentence goes on forever, and I'm like, I get it, but like put a period in here, put a comma. I mean, just, and he did. He put commas, he put dashes, he put semicolons, he put, anything he could think of to not end this sentence, he just kept going with it. And I'm like, please, I just need 2 sentences there, 3 sentences. I'd be much happier. And that's just his style. It is what it is. But I noticed that a lot, that he uses like or approximation words to indicate that it's like what they're actually saying versus like at 12, at 23:59, I do this. It's like, well, you like
He
this
uses
time.
and but so a lot at the beginning of sentences.
Yeah, but so every PM at like 23:59. I'm like, I've never heard somebody say a sentence like that. Maybe I just am not meeting the right people in this situation. But like,
I'd like to point out that these odd sentences and sentence length and punctuation and all that heavily depends on the POV.
it
Yeah, that's true.
does. It does.
It does feel that section did feel very cinematic to me. Yeah, like the whole thing. It's very evocative. Like, yeah, say what you will about Dave Foster Wallace's writing, like it when he chooses to be evocative, he's quite good at it, I think.
Speaking of writing, did anybody find the sex scene between the Orin and the Swiss hand model incredibly terrible?
Um,
I mean, I know that every time they were together, the paragraphs were horrible altogether. So
Like
like,
it uses just like the worst similes you've ever seen, and
okay.
I'm pretty sure it's written in a purposely just like very very unsexy way. Like I believe one of the ways he describes it as he carried her to the bed like a waiter carries a tray.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yes, yeah, there was some.
It
I
made me
mean, like
giggle.
his whole goal with that is like he can't feel any of the pleasure himself.
Yep, he's a
What
giver.
he's doing is he just wants them to fall in love with him so that he feels like he's needed by somebody, and then he ditches them.
Yep.
Um, which that is deeply messed up.
Yeah, I think we got a good look into Orin through his childhood friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, back to Green. His story is so sad, right?
Yeah,
That's a
Green
pretty sad
story.
story.
The lethal Christmas present.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he killed his
Yeah,
mother, and then his father like killed all those people, and then he went into like foster homes or something.
yeah.
Like, damn, dude.
That was just. I mean, it's like. I mean, as I understood it from reading it, he didn't like intentionally, obviously, kill his mother. He just opened the thing and it like cut her neck, or you
No,
know.
she was so shocked. I think she died from like a shock or like a heart attack or something.
I thought it was that it was like
Like,
it sounded to me like it was a snake in a can, and it just launched up with such force that it like broke
Oh,
her
maybe.
like her throat, or it chopped her something. And everybody thought she was play acting.
Oh, maybe I misread it because yeah, I thought it was just a snake in a can. And she was like, and his dad's like, "Oh, let it off. It's just a joke."
Yeah.
and then
Well, I
like
mean, it
several
took her. Yeah.
minutes
And now Green has a tattoo of Mildred Bunk.
Yes. Clearly, the steps to get to that obvious.
Oh, how? I don't know why this makes me love Mario all the more. But Mario can't feel pain.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense given his like total imperviousness to any kind of criticism or like social ostracization. Like he just keeps on trucking.
He's a man who literally can't feel pain, but is the most empathetic person in the book. I don't know. I just think there's something beautiful in that.
Like, does he feel sad himself?
I don't know.
Does he
Like,
feel any kind of emotional pain? I think
no,
I think
I think so because he worries about Hal.
he
He worries a
worries.
lot about Hal.
I think there's a difference there. Like so,
It's worry,
in the
sadness.
section of depression, David Foster Wallace is emphasizing that when you're in this kind of state, you become extremely unempathetic to others.
Yeah, just the worst person to be around. I think he talked about that in the movie too, right?
Maybe, yeah. I think that like maybe Mario is like in the opposite extreme end of this. Like his life is so sunny and joyous because of just the way his mind operates that he's able to extend empathy to others and like really care about them because like it doesn't cost him anything. You know, like it's kind
Mm,
of free.
interesting. See, I think it would be much more difficult for somebody who can't feel pain or who can't feel emotion to be as empathetic as he is, though.
He's like
Well, he
empathetic in
feels.
the sense that like he worries about people and wants them to be happy and whatnot. Does he like feel their pain? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. He always seems like he feels happy, so I mean that would be an emotion that he's feeling. He just doesn't ever feel sad.
I think
He's
he's
got the
very.
opposite of depression.
He seems
Yeah.
sad about Madame Psychosis being gone.
That's true. Yes, this does seem to be like the thing that's really throwing him for a loop. Like Madame Psychosis is gone. This person that he's grown to depend on and somehow he didn't know that she was Joelle, which I think is
Yeah,
interesting.
I think so too.
Spent a lot of
Um,
time around Joelle,
well, I imagine when he was with Joelle, she still had her Kentucky accent.
maybe. But still, people's voices don't change that much, right?
No. But I love the part where he's listening in through windows and he's like, "Oh, somebody's listening to Madame Silcosis. It must be a taped conversation. Maybe I could ask them later for like copies."
Yeah, he was happy that somebody had like put in the work to record it, even though he never would, even though he would appreciate it so much.
Well, it was
He's
just
like,
Joelle talking too.
Yeah. He thinks that the Madame Psychosis is like broadcast is like too sacred to record.
but he's glad somebody else is willing to do it. Just
It was this section that Joelle has that conversation with Gately and like reveals I'm actually just incredibly beautiful, and everyone falls over themselves when they see me. I'm deformed because I'm so ridiculously attractive, and I was like, actually, yeah, that makes sense, Joelle. I totally, yeah, that
I love
does
her.
sound like a rough gig, kind of.
She's getting a thing for Gately.
Yes, who
Yeah.
is like ugly as like just yeah, he's not good looking.
Nope.
I
Dawn.
liked
Dawn.
on my list of little notes. I liked Hal trying to isolate himself for a little while, and everybody just keeps walking in the room and like sitting
Yeah.
down and watching the movies with
Pretty
him,
much.
and then we got like the entire plot of Blood Sister, and I was like, "Yep, this sounds like every action movie made that I've ever seen." Like
It
twist,
sounds
twist, fall
yeah.
back, twist, twist, action fight.
Does anybody else want to watch that movie? Because I do.
I do. I thought it was hilarious that the Hal has the criticism of the movie that um, David Foster Wallace, in making a parody of this thing, just ended up falling into unironically enjoying the tropes of the medium rather than making like an effective satire.
Well, that's apparently what like or the real life DFW was into. He was like into like stupid movies, like stupid action bro dude movies.
I mean,
It's,
like I watch a lot of B and C movies, like quite bad ones. And there is a real charm to it, honestly.
I want to watch more. So
Yeah.
I yeah, I mean there's a place for that. I don't
Mhm.
think DFW would even say they're differently.
I yeah, it's definitely something that you should do with other people though.
Yeah.
If you're just if you just like watch The Room alone, then you can have a good time, I guess. But it's so much better when it's like you and like five other people, you've had a couple of drinks, you're perfectly willing to throw things at the screen.
Um I'm glad I don't have Axford's disorder of making all food taste like vomit.
Oh yeah, he's just like
yeah.
quietly determined shoveling food down his throat.
Ugh.
Mm.
I don't think you caught this, but uh so I asked Ash last time we talked off air if he noticed any supernatural elements or fantastic elements coming up. Did you notice any, Chesky?
No, no, I don't think I did. Aside from Marath's ability to get literally anywhere, and
I think that has
Steeple's
explanation.
legendarily bad disguises
That somehow work on
that somehow
everybody.
work on like 90% of people. Yeah, but
Um,
I will say I've got a list of things that I wanted to just mention, and I'll mention two of them. Everybody knows how a toilet lock works on a porta potty or in an airplane or literally anywhere, and we don't need an explanation of how that happens. Uh, you turn the knob and it says occupied, and you
mm.
turn the unknob and it unsays occupied, so that somebody just to clearly inform you that somebody's in the restroom, which that's fine. I thought the survey where it was hilarious. I don't remember who was taking the survey. I think it was Steeply, but he
I think it was
walks to the
Marath.
door, or Marath, yeah, and he walks to the door and they're like, "Hey, here's this," and he responds with some nonsense, and they're just like going back and forth with the stupidest things. And I was just like, "That's silly." And then the paranoia where they're talking about the milk, and they're like, "Yeah, it's a secret conspiracy. They changed the milk to powdered milk, and then they rebag it." And they're like, "But who would ever go back and rebag it in the same bags?" And then it cuts, and it's like, I think it was
Doing
Hal.
It
It was
turns out to
Hal
be
and
true.
Mario talking. He's like, "Yeah, I knew that it had been done 3 years ago when he took over. They powder it at night and they put it back in." And it's just he wanted to cut weight or something. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like the paranoia was real. Like it actually was something. Like it's
That was
nothing, right? Like
hilarious.
I don't. I mean, you have to correct me here, but like, I don't imagine that the milk paranoia plays into any other factor besides itself.
No,
But
not
like,
really.
but it was that was a one funny thing, and then in a those were kind of funnier notes, and this is one mean note that I have for the book. This is about I don't remember who was talking here, but I think it was Joelle talking about seeing the man's work, and she like has the epiphany, and she's like, "It's technically gorgeous the work with lighting and angles planned out to the frame, but oddly hollow, empty. No sense of dramatic towardness, no narrative movement toward a real story, no emotional movement towards an audience." And I was like, "This paragraph gets me in my relationship to this book."
Was she talking about all of JOI's stuff?
I don't remember exactly what she was talking about in this one. She might have known from the work, the man's work was amateurish, but then Oren lended her the Mad Storks read only copies, and then she
Yeah.
starts having like the epiphany, and then she sees some other ones. And I just, that one paragraph is just like, this is my relationship right here. Aside from, I mean, there's other good parts in here, but that's just my general feeling still, unfortunately.
I think it's obvious that a lot of the characters in this book take a lot of aspects from DFW, right? And I think the one who is just based on DFW is the Mad Stork himself,
Yes.
especially with his relationship to art. But yeah,
I think this is like I think this is Joelle expressing one of the fears that David Foster had when he was writing this book. Like maybe people will think those things about this book, and then I'll just be this crazy pretentious guy who's written this for nothing. Yeah, I like
he
I
seemed a
think
very self-aware and also very anxious man about how he's received.
yeah I agree. I think that Joelle is the most insightful character in the book, at least at the moment.
Okay.
I also appreciated the blindfolded tennis player. I can hear where they go, and I only interrupted 3 other games because I heard their balls going, and I ran to them as fast as I could. But I'm still learning. I'll get it eventually.
I was talking about it with Kip last time we recorded, but that section where Pemulus is explaining Fission to the blindfolded guy who is blindfolded because he saw how well the blind player is doing and just wants to tap into that potential is just hilarious.
That was a really good section, yeah. And like
And
interesting science.
interesting science. It's exposed very interestingly and in a very natural manner considering what we know about Pemulus and the situation. And we learned that JOI is kind of a genius.
Yeah, like a super genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a polymath or something. And that he, after becoming like a physicist, I don't know, what would you, fissionist? And
This would be a physicist, yeah.
solving all of the nation's energy problems.
And it's not fission, it's fusion, right?
I don't know the difference.
Which is fission is splitting particles. Fusion is.
Oh, that makes sense.
You're fusing 2 things together, yes.
Yes.
Versus when you fizz something and you pull them apart.
Exactly.
After doing that, he became the headmaster of a tennis school, a very prestigious tennis school, and then went into making cartridges.
Yes.
Some
And
of
he
it
did
are
a
good.
lot of lens like things with lenses.
He loves lenses.
Yeah. I was gonna say I did like the scene with the reporter where the reporter wants to interview Hal about Oren or just Hal in general. And
Oh, you mean steeply dressed up?
yeah. And he's just like, no, I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't remember who was talking to him, but he's like, no, I won't let anybody because these kids have to function after tennis is out of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and if you hype them up so high to where tennis is everything, then they start putting pressure on themselves, more pressure on themselves, and then if they crack, then it's all gone and it's all wasted instead of just like gracefully entering and exiting tennis and like doing it for what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Lint. I love any
The
time
lint, yeah, the lint.
somebody talks about CT and just how impossible he is to communicate with. We get very little of CT, and it's mostly just people talking about him. But he just seems like a very interesting guy.
He's like the perfect. I mean, like he's a great bureaucrat, right? Like you can walk into a room with him and then have like entirely justified grievances, and then like he'll bounce you back out 30 minutes later. You have no idea what happened.
Speaking of bureaucrats, any thoughts about what was the movie Bye Bye to the Bureaucrat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's his favorite movie. Bye Bye to the Bureaucrat.
I think it
The
was Mario's
bureaucrat
favorite,
bumps into a boy. They
and
pick
I
up
couldn't
their
remember who
stuff.
the boy was.
He misses his bus.
I think I would actually quite like that as a short film.
It was very Kafka-esque.
A
Yeah.
lot of film explaining in this one, yeah. In this section that we had.
I remember what we were talking about before we were interrupted by my son. I was asking about uh, supernatural or fantastical elements.
Oh yeah.
So there are objects moving around the academy, and nobody knows why.
Isn't that just Pemilus like gluing them up or something?
Sure, maybe. Uh, Everyone seems to be having the same dream about faces in the floor.
Hmm.
And at one point, who's the guru? What's Lyle? Lyle
Lyle,
was
he's actually levitating. Yeah,
literally levitating.
like 1 millimeter off the floor.
So these are strange events. Yes.
Yeah.
If they've been reported correctly or written correctly about what's actually happening.
That is a very good
That's-
attitude to go into it with.
I kind of just buy that Lyle is able to do this.
He does
Gately
seem
likes
above
to
it all.
fight. Lyle likes to float 1 inch off the.
I imagine Lyle could become like
millimeter off.
a bodhisattva if he just stopped ingesting
Sweat all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's what's tying him to the earth.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like the sweat is what's grounding him and allowing him to serve as a kind of spiritual guide for all these young tennis players.
So gross.
Do you have any thoughts about Steepley's father? Steepley's father is the man who was very, 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 very into MASH.
Oh,
Right.
that was an interesting one because I thought that was like the long, drawn out viewing of entertainment where it consumes your life, but the entertainment does it in one setting. Yeah, but totally easily able to see it happening to somebody, just like it was described, right?
Like happening to David Foster Wallace.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think his father had paranoid schizophrenia, but like I think that gives some motivation to Steepley that we didn't know before.
Mhm.
But also,
Well, he's seen quote unquote the entertainment, ruin
he's seen
a
what this
life,
does to people.
and more.
But what I found interesting is at the end we learned that like his addiction didn't actually kill him; it was something else, right?
Well, he just died in his chair watching the show, but it ruined his life before that. I mean, he
It ruined
didn't
his
do
life.
anything. He didn't leave his chair. He had notes. He was,
Ruined his
the
relationship, his
government
life.
came to his house to get him in trouble, but they're like, oh, he's actually just a crazy person who thinks these people are real.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the self delusion. It's that it's like a parasocial relationship gone incredibly wrong.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, when it comes to something like schizophrenia, like it's people can be like totally fine throughout their lives, and then like something happens to trigger it. And I guess in this case, it was MASH.
It's a good
Yeah,
show.
and it started
Not that good.
innocent, but then you had to watch every rerun. I mean, yeah, it's just the obsession with it.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a little more. Maybe I just missed over it as I was reading it, but the experiment where they're like, "How many fingers are you willing to give up to keep watching the entertainment?"
Oh man, yeah, the
And it just
AFRs.
kind of cuts off where it's just like they're gonna, will they cut off the 9th finger as fast as the first finger to watch it again, or will it delay and then it just fades? You don't know.
It's not even will they do it. It's just how fast. Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the AFR is a terrorist organization. They're bad dudes.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, that was really emphasized in this section, I think.
Well, at the end of the last one, right? It's like when they went and they stole the master copy from that Boston place, and then I believe it was Marath, like specifically told in this section that he's the one that killed the guy by broom handle. Ugh.
Was that the
Yeah,
master copy?
no, that was last section.
No, it was
the
not a
broom
master
handle.
copy, but they were looking for it.
Yeah.
Well, and then
But he
Marath
finally got the
to
master copy, right? Yeah.
No,
I thought
I know he killed the guy in the second section that we read.
Mhm.
I guess
But
he hasn't got the master
then
copy yet.
Marath got to Ennet House, and I was like, why on earth is he here? And then luckily it did actually explain it like 2 pages later when he sees all the cartridges, and I'm like, aha, okay, that's why he's here pretending to be somebody seeking asylum, and he's like creeped out by everybody in the whole building, and just like, I just want asylum to stay here, and everybody's trying to talk to him and like deal with him, and he's just like, I'm just gonna say the same as few words as possible. I need help.
I'm
Please
here
go
for my
away.
drug addiction. Can you give me
Yes.
treatment for my drug addiction? I have a severe drug addiction.
I'm Swiss.
It's like your computer trying to read it off to you.
I'm sorry, I'm Swiss.
Like the least convincing story ever. I don't know why he was admitted.
I mean, Jesus, you know why he's admitted because you want to help him. They
Yeah.
he said all the right words at all the right times. Help, else, chit
Oh,
chat.
please. I
I'm
am in
addicted. I'm
stress.
Swiss.
I'm in distress. Oh, we've had people who speak English much worse than you. Like you're gonna fit right in.
Have you noticed? I think his English is getting worse as the novel's going on.
Yeah, it might be.
Would you join a tunnel club?
No, never
They
in a
need to
million
justify
years
their
would I
own
grab.
existence through the
Yeah,
finding of a single rat.
I would absolutely join a tunnel club if I was that age.
Yeah.
I love. I found what the narrator was saying about young boys to be absolutely true on that spot.
Yeah, that is young boys. Absolutely.
Um. Oh, Maddie. Did you like Maddie's section? Pemulus's brother.
gonna have to give me more than that. I have
Maddie.
very
Maddie
little connection.
is Pemulus's older brother. He is now a prostitute, and he had thought long about his growing up and his father raping him at night.
Right. Another absurdly horrible story.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of them in this section.
Yeah.
I think
Like the whole book.
actually, I'd say there were more last section because last section were all the AA stories. Although this section we did have Maddie and we had the from Joel's perspective listening about that guy who basically starved his family uh, due to his
Yeah.
addiction. That
Well,
was
wasn't Joelle's her dad that she keeps calling him like her actual daddy or something? I don't remember how she said it.
Joel ran
Oh,
with him, right?
what?
kind of.
Yeah.
We'll learn more about Joel's backstory, I think, in the next section.
Well, yeah, just like he had like specific rules about things, and then you realize he was very abusive to her. You don't know exactly
Yeah.
what way, but then she's like, "Oh, this is more love with." I think it was with Orin though, because she was like, "I don't feel like alone or afraid when he's not here, when he is here, and I don't."
Mhm.
Yeah, so
But one of the parts I really liked was her listening to that story about the father who, due to his addiction, like I think his daughter and his wife are much better now, but like he literally could not do anything. And he came home one night after a bender or something, and the only thing that was in there were like empty crackers. And now they're separated, but he feels better because he knows that they're doing better, I suppose. And that's
Mhm.
what decided Joelle. That's what made Joelle decide that she actually wants to stay clean.
So
Yeah.
that was a sad but good story where he's like, I'm working the job, I'm doing what I need to do. That was my turning point. I saw that how little my family had to do or to eat while I was, guzzling the money down. And then, yeah, that was like a heartwarming but still sad story.
Yes. In terms of like the sad stories, I was most affected by the story that Kate Gompert heard in a psychiatric hospital, like a man who had been psychotically depressed for like 20 years.
Oh, he's into
He just like got hit
trains.
on the head, and so he just he like in total pain his for like decades, and he just kind of like sits in the basement and he does his model trains in the silence. I was like, oh, geez.
He's supported from his wife, and he's just in constant anguish all
Yeah.
the time, and they just pray every
She prays
night
for
for it to
him. He
go
just kind of
away.
weeps. Yeah.
And like, she's just in awe of his resolve.
And like the good option for him is that he gets brain surgery so that he doesn't need to feel pain anymore.
Yeah, Kate Gomber's sections are great.
Kate Comfort. Yeah. Although she gets a queasy feeling around Joelle, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
Maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe Joelle is just too insightful. She
Maybe.
gets off by that, or cynical, or unwilling to be honest about herself with others. I don't know.
A lot of different things it could be.
Yeah, the fact that she's too pretty.
Literally
Supposedly.
too pretty. Everyone falls for her.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring this up until next section. I hope I remember. I think I've gotten to most of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I covered everything. Oh, wow. No quicker turn off when I'm reading this book than listening to someone talk about their hog or talking about someone else's hog. That was great.
We haven't talked about Hal at all.
No, we haven't.
Kind of important. He almost lost to Stice, and Stice only lost because he didn't think that he could beat Hal yet, and he thinks his performance is going down because he quit smoking marijuana, and
Mhm.
he's having like a serious crisis.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about his current condition?
Well, he's going to an emotional tailspin, that's for sure. I don't know. Is he gonna like end up watching the Infinite Jest and then get kind of messed up because of it, leading to the events at the start of the book? I don't know.
I don't want
I'm
to say.
curious as to how what happens to that. Yeah, how he gets to where he was at the beginning of the book. I don't know.
It
I think he's going through a rough spot with he's trying to go through withdrawals, and so yeah, it's going to impact you a little bit. I mean, obviously, I don't know how serious the withdrawals are from his daily marijuana use, though. So I imagine he's suffering a little bit at least from not doing that.
I don't know. From what I understand, like again, it's been pointed out several times. I think that uh, by people who are quote unquote on real drugs, that marijuana is just considered a very tame recreational drug, even though
Mhm.
the people we've seen are actually suffering quite a bit from their addiction. But Hal, I don't know if it's actually like physical marijuana withdrawals, if that makes sense. I think it's
Yeah,
just
Right.
I don't think you get physical withdrawal from marijuana, but
yeah.
it's
I
like
have no
kind
idea.
I think what it is like the kind of person who gets addicted to marijuana. When they get addicted, they get used to something in like a psychological way, and then when that is taken away, they're not able to really function as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also,
Well, that's what I'm
he was
saying. Yeah.
addicted to the secrecy as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
the secrecy.
I
They're
mean, he
just the
was.
idea
Yeah.
like he's doing something that his mom isn't going to catch him for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
maybe that
just
would
think
help.
that if you were to take anything every day for a while and then take it off, that's going to throw you off in some way, no matter what.
Yeah. I'm curious how, like, the first two scenes we get of Hal, the people in the scene are not able to understand him. Like, the
He seems to
first
be
scene,
talking in animal grunts and noises and flailing his arms around in a very odd way. Yeah.
yeah. And, like, the second scene, like, is with his dad, and then his dad is
When he's much younger and his dad literally thinks that he cannot communicate.
yeah. So I'm curious as to how those are going to tie together, or like what's going on there. I don't know. Like clearly there's some kind of latent problem Hal is like that's manifesting with Hal.
Yeah.
Also,
Well,
in
and
that first section, we're given that flashback of him eating the uh,
Mold.
the mold that's growing on top
Yeah,
of the mold and mold. Do you
maybe.
remember how? Go ahead.
Mhm. I'm just thinking like maybe the mold is like growing in Hal.
he's got brain
Maybe.
mold.
It's
I
got
don't
brain
know.
mold.
It doesn't strike me that it will be the Infinite Jest video or the entertainment that does him in, because those people become mostly catatonic, just sitting there and doing nothing, whereas he's moving, and at least from our point of view, he's thinking and trying to move
Yeah.
forward, whereas the other ones are obsessed with the entertainment. So maybe it's his love of tennis that saves him. Love
Yeah.
I
conquers
don't. I
all.
don't think he likes tennis. I think it's just something he does.
I
That's
think
fair.
like he seems to need it. Um, but I don't know. Maybe that's just because he's been playing it for so long.
I don't think
I
Hal feels much of anything.
I don't know. He's a hard like he's kind of a hard character to get a grasp on at this point. Honestly, like there's been a fair amount of page time with him, but we don't really see what's actually going on with him.
I think the Hal we see in the first chapter and the Hal we've seen throughout the rest of the book are two very different characters.
Mm, we'll
But
have to
that's all I'll
read and
say.
find out.
Yeah. Um, on Hal and Mario, I love when they start living together again, and Hal opens up to Mario about his problems finally, and he ends uh like Mario, I know you're hurt by this information. Mario says, I'm 0% hurt, and that he says, I don't know what to do. He's so worried, and he's confiding in Mario. He says, I and Mario's response is, I think you just did what you should do, in that he's opening up to Mario about it.
Hmm.
Mm.
I know I've been talking about every episode how much I love Mario, but I love Mario so much.
I'm curious what maybe the problem is just that like besides Mario, like no one's like looking at Hal and like seeing what's going on with him.
Yeah,
Like
that seems to be the
he's
problem.
just kind of lost and I guess at the start of the book no one's able to hear him and in that scene with JOI he's not able to hear him and yeah maybe no one's able to hear Hal when he's talking just generally.
Well, it's a common motif in these books are people just talking past each other.
Yeah, and just like you're
Mhm.
not able to understand other people anymore, and like the people who are making themselves understood are like the addicts, basically, right? The ones who have like hit rock bottom and like they have nothing left, and so they have to be authentic. But like so long as you're able to, dodge that, then you're able to just like lie to yourself and others, and then it's just superficial interactions the whole time.
Do you sympathize at all
With Hal or with
to any of the characters on this search for authenticity and
yes,
loneliness and yeah.
it's something that it perpetually bothers me how difficult it feels to have actual meaningful conversations with others, and how reluctant people are to be like truly honest, and even when it's uncomfortable ways. It's something that really gets me down, like especially in like a corporate work environment, because
Mhm.
obviously you have to have that because otherwise you can't work with people. But like it's like just kind of banal conversations about nothing.
Kind of like
They
that
like
Kate Gomberg section in the hospital, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Mhm.
just I need to produce the correct responses to what this person is saying so that they
Yep.
feel like I'm listening to them, and
I'm not
uh,
going
so
over stepping out of bounds.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sort of stuff really gets
Yeah.
me down. It really bothers me.
All right. Um, do you have any other thoughts before I have a question for you guys?
I am good.
My head is empty.
Was it brainwashed? Well, that reminds me that I think Green was talking about his like he and Lens were talking and like I feel like I'm getting brainwashed. He's like, well, I think my brain needed a little bit of washing, don't you?
Yeah. He has that that one thought.
Okay. Last thing. Are you looking forward to anything happening? Are you afraid anything is going to happen? And coming into our last section of the book.
I'm concerned about my girl Kate and also Joelle. I'm not looking forward to what's going to happen to Hal. And then, yeah, as for the rest of the characters, like I don't know. I hope Don Gately and Joelle have like a romantic ride off into the sunset moment.
I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I don't think there's a lot of things that are gonna happen that I think I kind of hope and I kind of want to see what exactly is the entertainment, if it's a video by himself or like by their dad, and that was like the secret, but I honestly don't think that he'll show us what's on the tape. He'll have somebody see it close to us, or somebody, we'll see it from somebody's perspective, and they'll remark, and then we'll never actually know what it was that he maybe thought would have been. So that, as for the rest, I have there's no way I could accurately predict anything that's going to happen in any chapter of the book, like even from paragraph to paragraph. So there's no way that I'm accurately or naively predicting anything that's going to happen, pages and percentages from now. So
All right. So, with that in mind, shall we go?
Yep.
All right.
sounds great to me.
That concludes our episode. You can find us in the Legendarium's Discord. The invite link is on legendarium.com. We're also on Twitter at GreenTownPod. Join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Shout out to Horizon Brave. Thank you to Chesky and
Hey.
Ash. Music was Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Boop, boop.